Hey guys, welcome back to the channel where I cover missing persons, unsolved cases, crime news, and more. I took a break yesterday because I went through the probable cause for Stephan Sterns' 60 new charges. And it is really, really hard to read. I will not be reading it here on the channel. If you want to read it, it is on the Osceola County Clerk of Court website. You are more than welcome to go there and download it. It is 36 pages long. What I will tell you is they have charges that amount to at least 400 images, and then there's multiple videos, and it also looks like there may be a child under 5, and there's also other things that cannot be spoken here on the YouTube streets. But it is very disturbing, and I don't think that this is the end of the charges that are going to be stacked up against Stephan Sterns. And as we've been saying, we haven't even gotten to the homicide charges yet. The murder of sweet Madeline. We haven't gotten to that yet. So while we're all anxious for those big murder charges to come up against Stephan, whatever the heck we want to call him, I just call him the monster. And also charges that could be pending against Jen Soto. I'm going to actually play an interview with a former Orlando police chief. He spoke with WDBO the other day, and it is enlightening, and I think it's going to answer some of these questions. And we've already said it really is about crossing the T's, dotting those I's, making sure they've got all their ducks in a row, you know, all that sort of stuff. Because, like we said, Stephan is not going anywhere, and I can tell you they know exactly where Jen Soto is. So at this point, there's not going to be a rush. But let me play the interview, and I will pause it occasionally for fair use, of the former Orlando police chief speaking with WDBO. But real quick, just to make sure everyone is caught up on this case, I wanted to give you guys the lowdown. I think most of you by now are familiar. But 13-year-old Madeline Soto was found dead about 2 weeks ago. It'll be 2 weeks ago tomorrow, after she was reported missing for several days. Now, Stephan Sterns, the boyfriend of Jen Soto, which is Maddie's mom, is the prime suspect in the case. He allegedly dropped her off at school that morning and was the last one to see her. Then we, of course, found out that he never dropped her off at school, and instead he threw her book bag, her school laptop, into the dumpster at the apartment complex, the condo complex where they live in Kissimmee. And then the Orange and Osceola County charged him, under Kissimmee Police Department, they charged him with some sexual abuse charges, some CSAM against Madeline. And he has been in jail since a few days before they located Madeline in St. Cloud in an abandoned field. And we have since had, again, another 60 charges added on to Sterns' ever-growing list of offenses. So, all right, so let me get the WDBO interview up here. I really enjoy listening to it. WDBO is a news station here locally, here in the Central Florida, Orlando area.
Today, I chat with former Orlando Police Chief Orlando Rolone about this very disturbing case. This is a case that absolutely makes you sick. And you have this lowlife now, Stephan Sterns, behind bars on other charges, child porn charges. He's the main suspect here. From your standpoint, Chief, from the outside looking in, why is it taking so long to charge someone or someone's in this particular case here?
Hey, good morning, Scott. I believe that the lead agency and the state attorney's office are doing their best to ensure that although they may have probable cause, that they have what is needed to prove it in court beyond a reasonable doubt. And making sure that everything is reviewed and investigated thoroughly is super important. So, in my opinion, I believe that they're just making sure that they have everything in order before a decision is made.
And they do have time to dot those I's and cross those T's because this guy, Stephan Sterns, is in jail. This guy's a piece of work here, Chief. But the mother here, the mother of Madeline Soto, I mean, she had this guy as a boyfriend, Stephan Sterns. She had to have known, and this is an editorial comment, I mean, she had to have known of at least some of the stuff, the disgusting stuff that was going on here. The mother's stories told to the media and to detectives, they don't seem to add up here. So what are investigators doing perhaps behind the scenes in terms of trying to figure out what the heck is going on with the mother here?
So just like most citizens like us are wondering what role, if any, the mother or anyone else for that matter played in the disappearance and death of this child, I think that is one of the most important pieces that the lead agency is having to investigate and to make sure that they do it thoroughly without jumping to conclusions, without having the support to formally charge someone. I think it's the biggest challenge for them. But with that said, I do believe that in a given moment or at the given time, there has to be somewhat of an update be given to the general public just to at least keep them informed of the fact that this is an ongoing investigation. Because unfortunately, when that doesn't happen, then speculation tends to dominate things. But in this case, I believe, and it is my strong opinion, that the lead agency is doing everything possible to thoroughly investigate this case. And unfortunately, up to this point, they have not been able to get to that point where they can make a formal decision. But the fact that it is an ongoing investigation, I think, should be refreshing to everyone.
So I like what the chief has to say here, the former chief, that, and I completely agree with him. I think that Kissimmee Police Department and all the other agencies that are working with them, because I believe that they have probably Osceola County Sheriff's Office working with them. Because remember, KPD is the lead on this case. They could be getting any and all help possible. And when you're hitting onto these child abuse charges, you know, they probably have all hands on deck. And maybe they don't know if they're still trying to determine, was it Stephan or was it Jen or something else? I believe it was probably Stephan, but again, they have to be sure. And also something that I think about a lot with them is look at all these charges. Look at all this CSAM. Again, that's child abuse material, child PORN, folks. Okay, I'm just trying to be careful with the way I word things here on the YouTube streets. And I think that they're finding so much. It's such a deep hole. I mean, it's like a tunnel of crap. And I think that they may be discovering a ring. Again, I don't know if St. Cloud Santa is connected, but I still believe that it's very, very possible. You know, we still have the whole Disney possible connection, which regardless of them saying he didn't work here, he doesn't work here. Well, he was hired probably by a third party employer. Okay, Disney, they do hire directly through their casting office, but they also have companies that hire for multiple jobs. So cast members may or may not be hired directly through the casting center down there in Lake Buena Vista. When I worked for them years ago, I was hired through the casting department. But I believe in many recent years, I mean, that was in high school. But they do hire a lot of people through these other smaller agencies. And that's definitely helpful for them in these kind of cases, because same thing happens when Grady Judd over there in Polk County arrests all these folks and said, oh, they work at Disney. Disney goes, no, they don't work here. No. Because they were hired through a third party. They were hired through another agency. So Disney just goes, nope, they don't work here. And we all know they did work there, but they just not been hired directly through the Disney casting department. That said, I think that Stephan is the actual murderer, and I believe that Jen knew. What she knew is very up in the air at this point. But I do think that they are going to have to say more soon, but then again, they're not required to tell us anything. But the speculations, as he says, the conspiracy theories, the speculations, they're just going wild. So for them not to say something soon, I guess that would just surprise me as well. I think that something's going to come out, whether it be, in the next couple days, in the next week. I think that we're going to hear something soon.
Individual is in jail, that this individual is still being investigated, and anyone else who may have played a role will be part of that investigation.
I want to go back to the mother, Chief. There is rampant speculation because we really haven't heard as to what is going on other than the first couple of days after the body was found of Madeline Soto. What about the mom here? Do you think that investigators have gone to her a number of times, tried to interview her? I don't know if she's lawyered up or not, but is that the process, is to go back, to the mother? And I'm not accusing the mom of anything right now, but do you think that has happened multiple times here?
I would not rule that out. During an intense investigation such as this, when an individual or individuals are part of our potential people of interest, there's no stopping how far the investigators will go to find their answers. Meaning, if they have to visit with the individuals or interview the individuals multiple times, then that is common. Now, if the individuals or the suspects or the people of interest are not willing to speak to the investigators, then that complicates matters. Then the evidence has to speak for itself.
Yeah, we don't know if Jen is really cooperating with law enforcement. I hear rumblings that she's not. But again, we don't know that. We know for sure that she's lawyered up. And we all know once you lawyer up, you don't have to say a darn thing. So is she cooperating through her attorney, or is she just sitting there going, I'm not saying a dang word? I don't know. What do you guys think?
Kissimmee Police, you have the Orange County Sheriff's Office, you have the Osceola County Sheriff's Office also involved. Your multiple jurisdictions. Perhaps, Chief, does that have something to do with, I guess, the deliberation that we're seeing in this case right now?
I don't think so. At any given time, those agencies did play a role, but ultimately it'll become the lead investigative agency who will be responsible for ensuring that the case is prepared and presented to the state attorney's office. The state attorney will then review that information and make a determination whether charges are warranted or not.
Chief, we do have this new Florida law to where the death penalty is imposed for those convicted of sexually abusing children under the age of 12. Of course, Madeline, when she passed away, was 13, but this alleged abuse here, it appears, started years before that. Might authorities be trying to build their case toward a death penalty here?
I really don't know. That's really something that the state attorney's office should answer. But the fact is that this individual is behind bar for some horrific crimes that he's been charged with. And the fact that he's behind bars and can't harm anyone else until he has his day in court is something that we should be glad about. Whether the state attorney will follow or press on for a capital crime in court, that it will have to be answered by the state attorney.
Sure. And then you have the Osceola sheriff posting those pictures of the crime scene, which throws another monkey wrench into this equation here. I certainly hope that those pictures have no bearing on the prosecution of this case, Chief, because my goodness, that would be a shame to the highest degree considering what this poor little girl went through.
absolutely a mistake that obviously now has to be answered. But I would hope that because it was a mistake by someone, that it doesn't hinder or interfere with the prosecution of the monster responsible for the death of this child.
Again, good interview by Inez of WDBO. Inez Says, that's his podcast, and he interviewed former Chief Roland. And I'm really glad I was able to get a hold of that. It was a great, he's an expert in the field, whether he's a current chief or not. That said, I know we covered the pictures here on the channel, and I'm hoping people are going to kind of calm down off of that, at least till we get to a trial. And if it does become a problem, we can discuss it from there. But otherwise, I mean, there's much bigger fish and much bigger things to deal with than all that. And as far as the trial itself, that would be the next thing I wanted to jump onto. They just announced today that there is a trial date set for Stephan in the case. His trial, according to the updated records from the Osceola County court clerk's office, his trial is set to begin on May 13th, and he does have a pre-trial appearance set for April 24th. I am actually going to see if I can be present for his trial, because like I said, it is about 45 minutes from me, and I have family over that way, and to see if I can attend some of this trial and cover it there. But we will know more obviously next month. I'm probably not going to be at the pre-trial appearance, and I don't know if Osceola County is going to do any kind of Zoom or streaming or anything like that. It's a smaller county, even though it's sort of not. But I mean, they haven't had too many big trials, so definitely that's something that we'll see. I'm sure all the major news media, Channel 6, Channel 9, Wish 2, Fox 35, all the major media here, as well as Court TV and what have you, I'm sure they're all going to make their requests to the court for the judge to allow them to have cameras in the courthouse, so in the courtroom. So I'm hoping that they'll at least do a pool camera, and then we can, see that from there. Although this is going to be a pretty difficult case to hear, so again, who knows what the judge will decide in that particular case. So I'm going to assume we're going to know more. Again, he also has a hearing set for April 2nd for those 60 new charges. So we should know more in April as far as this is concerned, and hopefully by then we'll have the murder homicide charges for Maddie, either for him or her or Jen or both of them. Vinny went over on his show last night about the death penalty for these alleged sex crimes. While Florida does have this law, it looks like this may be an issue when it comes to Stephan Sterns, considering all of these events that he's been charged with are before this law was enacted.
But I want to specifically look at one area of these charges, which are very significant, especially now in the state of Florida. Sexual battery on a child under 12. 8 counts of that, okay? Significant. The other counts are significant as well, but that's the most significant. Why? Because of a brand new law down in Florida, which went into effect on October 1st of 2023. A person 18 years of age or older, Stephan Sterns, who commits sexual battery upon or an attempt to commit sexual battery injures the sexual organs of a person less than 12 years of age commits a capital felony. It's now a potential death penalty for the sex crimes in Florida for someone under the age of 12, the victim. And you look, this goes back to 2019 now, right? Clearly under the age of 12. Going all the way to 2022, still under the age of 12 in 2022 in the summer. Now, here's the problem. The law went into effect in 2023. So is this a potential death penalty case just for the sex abuse charges? Let's bring in the think tank. Can you punish someone for conduct back in 2022 and 2019 with a law that was passed in 2023?
I would hope so, but the answer is no, and that's spelled N-O. Unfortunately, it's called ex post facto. No.
You don't think it's
he deserves nothing less and nothing more.
I understand what he deserves. I want to know what the law is first.
Law, in my view, no, because you cannot pass a law regarding something that took place before and
Yeah. This is what is going to frustrate everyone right now. The fact that the likeliness that this can be enforced for Stephan Sterns is nil. That does not mean he's not going to spend the rest of his days in a cold jail cell in prison. But this may just take the DP, the death penalty, off the table for these charges.
Even if it's just the punishment?
So here's the issue. The law actually is unconstitutional because in 2008, there was a United States Supreme Court case, Louisiana versus Kennedy. It was a 5-4 decision wherein the court analyzed the interplay of the 8th Amendment, the prohibition on cruel and unusual punishment, compared to the 10th Amendment, the state's rights to legislate. And they said, if there's not a death or an intent to do death, kill somebody, then you cannot impose the death penalty. The fact that Florida has enacted this law is one thing. I mean, legislatures all the time enact unconstitutional laws. I do believe that this law will be found unconstitutional as it has been before. I also think this is going to be a murder case, and that then will make it a capital felony.
That gets, so the sex crime's not going to do it. You agree, Professor Kessler?
Molly makes law professors look good, doesn't she? She's exactly right. So on 2 counts, he loses. The law is unconstitutional, and it's ex post facto. We'll get to use those fancy words we learned in law school. Can't declare something illegal after it's already happened and then convict somebody of it.
Okay, so on 2 different grounds, we're saying this might be a problem to try to get a death penalty from the sex crimes. Okay, Daryl, everyone's asking, why hasn't he been charged yet?
Because at this point, at least in the state attorney's office eyes, they don't have enough evidence to where they're circling. Believe me, they're looking at DNA, they're looking at every piece of evidence they can possibly find. And when they have enough, because he's incarcerated, he can't go anywhere. All he can do is go get his meals, go to the cafeteria, maybe. They'll charge him, but they want to wait because they can wait. It's not as if he can disappear, flee the country, flee any place.
Well, a lot of people scratching their heads because, in the initial press conference, they're saying, we believe her dead body's in his car.
Belief is not tantamount to proof.
Right, and I think in this case, it's strategically smart for the state to charge him with 60 plus additional felonies for which he's facing life in prison, because people want to know. They want to know the specifics, and sometimes investigation doesn't get you there. So now you have leverage. You can sit with him and say, look, you're facing life either way. I haven't charged you with capital murder. Tell us what happened. And at that point, perhaps there are some unanswerable questions at this point that resolve all of these things we're wondering about.
Well, a lot of people also wondering about the mother, Randy.
Well, the mother. Well, first of all, the father. He might wish.
He's not the father.
Not the boyfriend.
Wait.
The stepfather.
She called him the stepfather. You're a family law guy, so you know better than all of us. But apparently, the mother referred to him as Madeline's stepfather. We don't know what Madeline called him because she's not with us.
I'm sure she called him
Predator.
I don't think they were married, but there are rumors that maybe they did get married. I don't know.
But back to what I was saying, he he probably would be wishing for the death penalty. You don't want to be in jail forever with the conviction of those crimes. So back to that, he might say, please give me the death penalty after this trial. But yes, the mother, that's strange behavior. Why is she not out there telling the whole world everything she knows, talking to the cops, saying,
she might be. We don't know. We don't know where she is, by the way.
But remember, if she does, she may put herself in very deep yogurt.
Well, what kind of potential problems could mom have here?
The way that she behaved during the press conference, I thought was strange from the beginning, right? There's no tears with either of them. She said a few things that I found to be very, off-putting. So if she is complicit in terms of the murder, these charges also can serve as leverage against her. A good lawyer can say...
What do you mean by complicit? What sort of action?
If she knows about the murder, but is not involved in the production of child sexual exploitative material or the sexual batteries, then now she can become a source of information to implicate him, who is seemingly more egregious in his behavior. If she has any involvement in the killing of her child, now those unanswerable questions can be answered through her, and he can be prosecuted.
What defines involvement? Where's the line between knowledge and involvement? Because a lot of people talk about this concept of turning a blind eye.
That's exactly what she may have done.
Well, it's also different when you're a parent. You have a duty to take care of a child, and child endangerment means you're responsible for a child. You got to protect the child. If it's your child and I know something's going on, that's different. Do I have a duty to intervene? Less so than if it's in my household. I've got to protect my child. So does the knowledge get you to murder?
Yes, it
parties
can.
to a crime, conspiracy.
Absolutely.
She may not have done anything other than see, feel, or hear what's going on, but clearly, in my view, she can be charged with and convicted of murder if the evidence is there that she knew what was going on.
I love Vinny's show, and I love his think tanks. I will be linking to this so you guys can watch the rest of it if you like. But this was one of his really good ones. These are 3 great experts, and rarely do they all agree on his think tanks. So this, to me, they're giving out a lot of the same stuff that we're hearing from other experts. So we are hearing exactly what's going on. Like they said the same thing that former Chief Rowland said. They're making sure that they got everything taken care of. They may not have enough evidence yet to charge for that murder. And then you got Jen Soto, who they're going to see about her charges. So again, we're talking maybe they don't have a lot of evidence in one way or the other. Maybe they need Jen to talk. And that's where a proffer would come in. And as much as I severely, really hate proffers, they have become a really important thing in a lot of these big cases lately. We just had Kayla Montgomery. She's getting out in May, and I'll be covering that in the next couple days as well for those looking for updates on Harmony. She did this major proffer with the state of New Hampshire to testify against her husband, Adam Montgomery, in the death of Harmony Montgomery. And then you also have Harley, who testified against her mother in the case of Gannon Stout. So again, there's so many cases where proffers are given out like, bowls of candy to get to the bigger fish, the bigger person that they need, the bigger monster. So I think if she is not involved in the actual acts of the murder or what have you, and she just has all this knowledge, they're going to throw a proffer right at her and say, hey, if you testify, you do all this stuff, you either get no jail time or you'll get less jail time or you'll, what have you. They'll make her a deal. And if she'd be, in my opinion, she'd be dumb as hell not to take it. But again, we don't know what she knows. I mean, hopefully she's talking to the law enforcement through her lawyer, but again, she could not be saying a dang thing. It's definitely a lot going on. And then also on the last point here, as far as what they were saying again about the whole death penalty thing, I think that it is disappointing. It really is that this new law that was adopted at the end of last year is probably just not going to fly in this case. But I don't think they're going to need it. I think we're going to have, more charges. We're going to have the murder charge, coming up. And either way, he's going to rot in jail, or he's going to sit on death row. That's my opinion on that. And this is the Deception Detective. I have grown to really love his channel. I'll post his channel and the link to this in the information of the video. He is excellent. I love his analyzing all these interviews, these videos. He does an excellent job. I'm going to play part of this here so you guys can go to his channel and watch the rest of it. He analyzes Jen Soto here. And as we know, we all really believe she's lying, which we know she lied, but that she's got a lot more going on. So I love the things that he has to say. So let's check it out.
What does Jennifer Soto know about the murder of her daughter, Madeline Soto? I'm Deception Detective. I'm an attorney trained in statement analysis, and this channel exists to expose lies and manipulation. In today's video, we'll analyze an interview Jennifer Soto did with WFTV shortly after she reported her daughter missing to determine if she had guilty knowledge. So what we're going to look for in this interview with Jennifer Soto is whether or not she was involved in the murder, if she had guilty knowledge, if she was lying about what she knew and didn't know in this interview. The other thing we're going to do while we're listening to this interview is run it through two of my checklists, which you can find on my new forum, DD forum, forum.deceptiondeck.com. The first one is my missing child presser interview checklist. So when a parent, like Jennifer Soto here, gets an opportunity to speak to the media about their missing child, we can expect them to do certain things if they actually do not know what happened to their kid. For example, they will speak about their kid in the present tense. They will be cooperative. They will try to answer the questions. They will be inconclusive about what happened to their kid, because if they don't know what happened, there's no way for them to be conclusive about it. We can also expect them to address any potential kidnappers. So even if they're not sure the kid was kidnapped, they might still speak to the kid, any potential kidnappers, through the camera. Like, if you have Madeline, please return her to me. She's my little girl. We'll pay you. We won't report you. Just return her, please. We can also expect them to address the child through the camera, because as far as they know, their kid might still be out there and they are on TV right now. This is their one opportunity to speak to their kid. So while a hoaxer might say, I'm wondering what's happening to my kid, I hope they're okay, someone who actually doesn't know what happened to their kid will take the opportunity to speak to their kid through the TV because they don't know if they're watching or not. Finally, we can expect the parent to ask the community to help, and we can expect them to have some sort of call to action. Like, if you see Madeline, call 911, or call this special hotline, or go to this special website after calling 911. The other thing to look for briefly is my hoax checklist. So hoaxers, when people who are making up a story are pushing a narrative in these interviews, they do certain things that indicate that they are hoaxing. For example, they're conclusive about what happened. We've seen that in the John Bonet case, Madeline McCann case, William Turrell case, Summer Wells case. They are vague about the money shot. And in the case of missing child, the money shot is the point in time where the kid went missing. They're very vague about the timeline and the details, usually because that's the part of the story they made up. So they're vague about it. They are reticent about the money shot. So if they get asked a lot of questions about it, they answer in very short answers. In other words, they're not trying to communicate information. They're trying to withhold information. And we see a difference between their displayed emotions and their reported emotions. So just because a mother is crying on camera and sobbing and weeping doesn't mean she's actually sad if she doesn't tell us she was sad. So often you'll see with hoaxers that they'll be crying a lot, but they never actually report how worried they were or how they shouted and screamed for their kid or did anything that would indicate that they were actually scared the time the kid went missing or that they're actually experiencing the emotions they're displaying. because acting is a lot easier than writing a script. All right, all that said, we're going to bear all that in mind, these two checklists, as we watch Jennifer Soto, because she is appearing on the news.
Okay. So the first question is if I can have your first, your last name, and spell them both out for me.
Okay. Jennifer Soto, JENNIFERSOTO.
Mother.
Mother.
Jennifer, tell me how you feeling right now.
I feel like I can't breathe.
All right, the reporter did a good job asking a vague question. Tell me how you feel right now. Because Jennifer is answering a vague question, we should pay attention to everything she says very closely, because she's telling us what's on her mind when she thinks about her missing daughter. Remember, at this point, nobody knew what happened to Madeline. The body had not been recovered. Stephan Sterns had not been arrested. The first thing Jennifer says is, I feel like I can't breathe. So when she's prompted to speak about her daughter, she talks about not being able to breathe. She seems to be breathing just fine. In fact, she seems to be shaking and hyperventilating. So she's actually breathing a little bit too well. Why talk about not breathing? I'm sure that when the autopsy report is revealed, that they killed Madeline either by strangling her or suffocating her or covering her mouth and her nose to pass her out and then doing something else to her. In other words, when she thinks about Madeline, she thinks about breathing, probably because she's recalling something about restricting Madeline's airway.
And that's exactly what I've said and others have said. Again, I think a lot of folks with that statement that she feels like she can't breathe, I think that was a big tip. That was just a hint of what killed Maddie.
Could I be totally off? Of course, right? Leakage is cumulative. This is the first instance we've seen of her talking about breathing. I'm just noting it. If she brings it up again and again, then we can put some more chips on the cause of death. Let's keep listening.
All I keep thinking about is, where is she? Is she safe? Is she okay? But we're all a wreck. My entire family is a mess.
My entire family's a mess. I believe her. When people are under stress, that's when you can expect them to leak the truth. Which is why in my deception deck, in my card about eliciting statements from uncooperative witnesses, I give 4 ways to increase their cognitive load. One of which is to have them repeat the events in reverse. All right, so the more stress you can put on somebody, the more likely they're going to leak true information. She's clearly stressed here, or at least she's doing a good job of acting like someone who's stressed and nervous by shaking and telling us that she feels that way. So when she says her family is a mess, I believe her. And as we've seen in the recent developments in the investigation, the family was in fact a mess. There seems to have been abuse, pedophilia, and even violence leading up to murder, right? So a gradual escalation of depravity.
We're just so worried.
When did you first realize, or when did you file a missing report?
We filed a missing report.
It's also interesting that she says, we are just so worried. Just is a minimizing word. So when she says we are just so worried, it indicates to us that she's probably feeling a lot more than that. A lot more than just worry. Maybe she's nervous that she might get caught. Right? So instead of the worry about her daughter being missing, she might be downplaying the emotions she feels about getting caught for murdering her daughter, or helping plan the murder of her daughter, or being an accessory to the murder of her daughter. At this point, we don't know what her involvement is. This is my first time watching this interview. However, it is the trending topic in the DD forum. So I have read some of the analysis done by members of the channel, like Jet Fuel Jenny, Sophia Brayland. Lots of them done very deep dives in this, and I've read parts of their comments. So while this is my first time watching this myself, I have a good feel for this case already from what I've seen in the forum.
We called the police at like 4:45 yesterday, 4:45 p.m. But she actually went missing early that morning, around between 8:45 and 9 o'clock in the morning. She went missing.
All right, so this is interesting as well. She says, we reported her missing, but she went missing. If you drop your kid off here, she's going to say that they dropped her daughter off at school or something like that, and the daughter wanted to walk to the school, so they dropped her off around the corner or something. That's like their story. If you drop your kid off for them to walk a block down to school, you don't know when they went missing. So the fact that she's saying conclusively she went missing at this particular time, instead of saying something like, the last time I saw her was at this time, is a slight indication that she's being conclusive, that she might be pushing a narrative. And as you'll recall from my intro, conclusiveness is one of the checks, one of the signs of a hoax. So telling us when she went missing is a red flag. Telling us the last time she saw Madeline would be the correct way to phrase this.
We had dropped her off close to the school. She wanted to walk the rest of the way. Sorry.
She wanted to walk the rest of the way. What is that? It's a slight victim blaming. Think about if this mother dropped her daughter off a block from school and her daughter was kidnapped in that short walk. She would be kicking herself. I let her walk. I shouldn't have done that. I should have taken her straight up to the door of the school and watched her walk in. Not blaming the daughter. Well, she wanted to walk there, and look what happened. When your kid goes missing, your kid can do no wrong. You miss them, you feel bad, you're kicking yourself as a parent for letting anything happen to them. We saw a similar thing in the Summer Wells case, which I've also done a series on, where the parents say, well, Summer liked to play outside and that was her downfall. That's victim blaming. The actual parent of a missing child kicks themselves. Why did I let her play outside unsupervised? Why didn't I make sure I was watching her? I knew she liked to play outside. I didn't put up a camera. I didn't put up a Ring doorbell. I didn't make sure that she had a dog with her or that grandma was watching her. These are the comments of actual innocent parents, like the mother of Michael Monkey Vaughn, who I've done a little bit of analysis on in other videos.
Again, this guy is right on target on so many of these cases that I've been watching him on and analyzed so far, these interviews. He's right on with the Summer Wells case, and we'll go through some of his stuff when I do so, or Summer Wells. But, and he, of course, he knows that Brandy and Tyler, quite a different situation. So, the deception, the lies, all this stuff, it's pretty clear when you watch these folks, when they talk to the media. I think it's becoming more and more clear the more cases I follow.
Also, if you're watching this video, you'll notice that Jennifer Soto is smirking and smiling because I think like a parrot or a toy is making noise in the background. That is bizarre. I will admit also that her shaking nervously is bizarre. I've seen Pat Brown comment about the nervous shaking and saying it's the first time she's ever seen it. If you know my channel, you followed me for a while, I don't analyze body language. I try to ignore it. I'm just pointing it out so you know I also see it. But I'm not factoring it into my analysis. I don't think this is, for example, Duper's Delight. People do bizarre things when they're actually distressed. So the shaking, the mother of a missing child who feels bad about being negligent and letting her daughter get kidnapped while dropping her off at school could be shaking just as nervously as the mother who helped plan the murder of her daughter and is scared of getting caught. Right? So we can't read too much into the body language, and it can be dangerous and misleading to do so. It's much better to focus on the words because people pick their words out of a dictionary of around 30,000 words for the average English speaker. So as there's only a certain number of movements I can do with my hands and my eyes, I have tens of thousands of words to choose from, which is why the ones that people pick are much more telling than where their eyes are looking or, whether or not they're shuffling their feet.
That should be it. Sorry about that. We dropped her off at school, close to school. She wanted to walk the rest of the way.
Actually, I'm glad we have that interruption. So one of the things I always point out in my videos where I believe the parents are responsible for what happened to their kid is I point out scripting, where it looks like the parents sat down ahead of time and came up with their story so that they could recite it to the police, to the news, and stay on the same page. It typically happens with co-conspirators, like the McCanns, in my opinion, are Candace and Don Wells, or John and Patsy Ramsey. When there's two people, the chances of their story getting exposed as a lie goes up by a factor of 1,000, right? It's much easier if you can lie alone, you say you're the only person there, and then the only way to screw up is if you contradict yourself in future interviews. When there's two people involved now you have to corroborate your story with each other in the present across interviews over time between each other. So typically what criminals do when there's two or more of them is they craft their story, they script it out ahead of time so they can recite it perfectly. And one of the indicators of a scripted story is that they recount it verbatim every time they tell it. And you can see this with Kate McCann when she talks about going into the room to find Madeline. Across years, her story has remained virtually unchanged word for word. So let's listen here. Let's see if Jennifer Soto, before that interruption, said exactly what she just said now, right? Because if they did do something to their daughter and the story of dropping her off is a cooked up alibi, which we know it is now, we can expect them to have scripted that story beforehand, and she should tell it the exact same way both times. Before the interruption by the parrot or the toy, and after. All right, so here's the first time she says it.
We had dropped her off close to the school. She wanted to walk the rest of the way. Sorry.
All right, we had dropped her off close to the school. She wanted to walk the rest of the way. First of all, notice how vague that is. If the last time you saw your daughter was 2 blocks from the school near a park bench or 3 blocks away near a bus stop, you would be telling us that. Because any little detail could lead to catching the person who took your daughter. So, like any scripted story, it's vague so that they're not pinned down to details. So that if the police say, there's actually a camera near that bus stop, they're not pinned down to that. Or they can say, well, then we dropped her a block closer. So scripted stories are typically vague. All right, so let's see if the second time she says it, after this little interruption, it's exactly the same as the first time. We dropped her off close to the school. She wanted to walk the rest of the way.
We dropped her off at school, close to school. She wanted to walk the rest of the way.
Wow. Word for word. In fact, she said we dropped her off at school and then corrected herself to say close to school. That's a great indication that this story is scripted. I have not seen later. Stephan Sterns gives an interview. I wonder if he will say the exact same thing. And if he does, we can stack up a lot of chips on our bet that this story is scripted. And if it is scripted, that tells us that she helped plan the murder, or at least helped cover it up, and was basically on board with the cover-up at the very least.
Again, he is excellent. I agree with everything that he's saying about Jen. And I really, really think everyone, if you haven't seen this video yet, please go over to the Deception Detective. I'll put that link in the information of the video. Everything that he says on this case has been right on. So please do check out his channel. And with that said, that's all I've got for this one. I know I packed in a few things here. But let me know what you guys are thinking so far. I haven't heard anything more on the whole Santa Satan St. Cloud situation yet. And I know there's a guy who came on T-Rev's channel a couple nights ago who's stating that there's a trafficking ring. So I'm aware of that one. Not sure what to think of him. I think there's some truths in there, and I'm kind of mixed on it, so I'm going to be looking more into that. But, yeah, let me know what you guys think of everything so far. If you have something that you've seen that I haven't covered yet, feel free to drop me an email. It's in the information of every single video. And with that said, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. And most of all, stay safe.